Hello everyone, and welcome to another Peiloff painting project. Today, we'll be painting apples. So let's get started. These wonderful apples are not only delicious looking, they're very easy to paint. And you just got to understand when you're painting with a peel and paint project, it's not like paint by numbers. So you can actually make changes. And I doubt if even I will replicate the exact same painting that you see here, but that's not the point. The point is you're going to be able to paint an apple, if not better than this, as close to this, or maybe even just like this. But it's a peel-off project, so it requires you to follow along, listen to the instructions, read the instructions, and I strongly suggest you watch this video all the way through before you even start painting along. Remember, you could always rewind it, you could always watch it again. So the canvas comes fully prepped. In this case, we have our delicious apple shapes already laid out for us. And the first thing we want to do is paint the entire canvas black. Now, if you notice, there are a lot of really wonderful cutouts here. Well, the black is definitely going to work for you and not against you. But you don't have to paint over every single thing. You can just make sure you cover the proper edges. And this way, when you peel it off, you'll see the image. So let's get started with the black. Loading up my brush. Now the kit comes with everything you need, but if you have your own brushes, please feel free to use them. So I'm just going to take this brush so that it'll speed up time a little bit. And I'm just going to very, very quickly but thoroughly paint this canvas black. I'm just going to start from the top, work my way down. You can paint the edges if you want to. In the case of this video, I'm only just going to paint the frontal surface because I am on a camera and I don't want to be changing the angles. I want you to see everything that I'm doing as I'm doing it. The only time you'll see me pause is in the case of letting things dry, but I'll let you know that. Just take your time. Now in this case, you see how I'm just going around the edges because this is really not that important to paint directly over. When I lift up this stem, I don't really need the black trim around that. It also saves time and it saves paint. But I'm just making sure I definitely paint around those edges. That's important in order for the paint and peel to be effective. Excuse my hand. And there. Okay. So now I'm just going to let this dry. And I will come back and let you know approximately how long it'll take to dry. Please pay attention that the peel is coming off, so it doesn't matter about this slickness. But I tried not to put a lot of what I call Van Gogh style painting on the canvas so that when it dries, it won't take that long. The thicker you make the paint, the more gobs you have, the more whelps and streaks you have, the longer that's going to take to dry. So we're just going to sit back, relax, let this dry, and we're going to come back and finish our painting. Okay, so we're back and let's see if it's dry. I like to touch with the back of my hand, but you can look at it and you don't see any slick spots, then you know you're definitely ready to go. Now, you get a pack of brushes with the kit to paint this project. I like using some of my own beat up brushes, so I'm going to make this painting with just a few. I only use this big 3/4 inch brush to help speed up the time of just painting everything black. But you'll get a nice flat brush with your set. That can do the job just as well. Just may take a little bit longer, but take your time and just do like I did with the other brush and go from top to bottom, left to right. Don't change too many strokes, just in case you see brush strokes. So with that being said, I'm just going to get started. And you do get a plastic spatula to peel off the images here, but I'm going to be using an X-Acto knife. Again, just to help speed up time. But the peel off with the spatula, it'll work just as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to peel off this back apple. Just going to take my time, get underneath it, and just slowly peel this off. Try to leave the stem, try to leave the leaf. I'll come back to those later. If it rips or pops, it's not a big deal. You can still take off what you can and come back and get the rest, which is what I'll do, just to show you what I mean. Now the outline is there, but now you have to paint. So even though you have the outline, you still have to use some creativeness to kind of mimic all of the designs that are in the apple. So let's get started. I'm going to take a filbert brush, has a slightly rounded edge, grab some red, and I'm just going to block in the basic apple shape. So I'm staying inside the lines. And if I may point this out, and you don't have to do this, but just giving you some advice as I go along. You see how my brush is inside the area instead of outside the area? Because if my brush lays down outside the area, I'm going to hit this black. But the fact that it's black, you could just easily paint over it. But why make more work for yourself when you can just move along and put the work in the details? A lot of what we're going to do first is just going to lay down a lot of really nice color. And we'll do some slight blending. But the highlight stuff and a lot of the detail stuff, we're going to save till the very, very end. And we're going to literally be painting one apple at a time. And that's why it's cut out the way that it is. So you can have fun, but also you can learn as you go. And that's one of the beautiful things I like about Peiloff, where you have a lot of people who haven't really spent a lot of time, learning to paint. And that's fine, but that doesn't mean you can't paint. And they have some wonderful kits out there, the paint by number stuff, which is great. But this gives you a little bit of help, but also allows you a lot of creativity. And I do mean a lot, because these apples that I'm painting red, you may very well want to do some granny apples. So you could just make a lime green set and just find a reference of some nice granny apples and paint these. You could even change and have some red, some Macintosh, and some grannies, or some yellow apples. So that's what I meant by creativity is open to you with a Peiloff. You're not limited to what you see, and you're definitely not limited to what you see me doing. I suggest strongly you be creative. I like to always say, let's push around a few colors and be creative. So now after I put this in, I'm going to start adding some of the shadow highlights, or not even highlights, tones in the painting. So this way, while the paint is wet, it'll blend nicely. And I'm going to do some very unorthodox things that you may or may not agree with, because looking at the reference, you may think, oh, all you got to do now is put in some black. Well, I'm not going to actually use black. I'm going to pull in a little burnt sienna with the red on it. And I'm just going to start softly blending in like a muted tone of red. So I'm using the burnt sienna just to give me some tonal changes before I go in with a little bit of the green and red, which is a complement, and it's going to mute that color down as well. But I like to do this just to kind of give me an idea of where I want my shading and shadows to be. So they're light enough that I'm not truly committed, but at the same time, they act as a great guide. So now the subtleness of those colors is fine. Now I'm going to take some green, mix a little bit of red and green together. I might even throw a little sienna, raw burnt sienna in there as well, because I'm looking for kind of a dark value. Again, not black, but a dark value. So let's see what we got here. Let's go right underneath here. Oh yeah, that's working out. It's a little wet into wet. And I may let this dry and then come back and hit it later to make it even darker. But like I said, I just want to add some tonal values so that later on, when I do decide to come back with the detail work, some of this is already softened up and blended together nicely for me to kind of help me pull off the effect that I'm going for. I'm going to go right to the edge here. Just going to add a little something. Yeah, this is good. This is good. This is good. Because I am going to get darker, but later. So now I'm going to clean off my brush. And then I'm going to do a little dry brushing. And I'm just going to softly blend around the edges to soften it up a little bit. Just like that. Just like that. And just like that. And there. That'll do for right now. Again, very subtle, but yet it's there. I'm going to give my brush a proper cleaning. And we're going to move on to the next apple. That's me cleaning my brush. I don't have enough room in my space to show you everything, but you get the idea. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to peel off the next apple. In this case, it doesn't really matter which one. So for purposes of the video, I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to go with this one. So I'm just going to peel this off, take my time, peel around the leaves. Peel around the stem, trying to keep everything straight for viewing purposes. Okay. So now before I even get there, I'm going to paint this stem, this particular stem right now. So when I come back later to do my apple, it's a color that I want it to be already, which is a burnt sienna. So I'm just going to peel that out. I'm going to take the same brush, grab a little burnt sienna, and I'm just going to put some color right over here. And that'll be a stem later. Let that set up and dry. And I'm going to go paint this apple now. This apple, again, of course, is also red. So I'm just going to grab some red, and I'm going to work my way around. Kind of like a slight outline, using the brush to just kind of drive along the edges. And then I start pulling the paint in. Now, a lot of people paint different ways, so your strokes can be your strokes. You don't have to follow along with exactly how I do my painting, but I'm just giving you the coloration, and I'm also showing you a way. Doesn't have to be the only way. Definitely doesn't have to be your way. Now I'm going to show you what happens here. Now see, I come close over here with this color. But because of the little bit of tonal value that I put in there, along with that black, you can see the separation distinctly between the two apples. And that can be very helpful and important when you're looking to do the highlights. Now, of course, if you're more advanced, you don't really need all of that help. But if you're kind of intermediate or just beginning or just want to have fun, then it can be helpful. And that's all this is. People say what they want to say, but let me tell you something. You look at any artist, they use whatever they can to get the job done. I'm not going to get into the ethics of things or whatever. I'm going to say to you, do some research on the masters. Forget me or regular people. Look at some of the masters of art. Your Michelangelos, your Caravaggios, your Vermeers. They all had their way of getting the job done. which may or may not be to some of the purists out there who want to claim this and claim that. But I say just have fun being creative. It doesn't really matter. Heck, if you can find a way to use an acrylic pen, use that if it's better for your hand to hold and to paint. If you want to change this into oils, you can do that too. See what I mean? It's like you want to combine the mediums, you can do that too. I don't have any cause to think that you can't be as creative as you want to be. All right, so now I'm just going to come here now. Unfortunately, because I'm painting on the table, I cannot flip this around so easily. Sometimes I run to the other side, but I'm going to try to just continue staying inside the area, putting a nice highlight outline at the edge so I could just block in the rest. So again, I'm painting very differently because one, I'm shooting a video for you, and I just want you to see exactly what I'm doing. Okay, so now that apple's ready. And what are we going to do here? We're going to grab a little bit of that burnt sienna and red, just to dull it down a little bit. And we're going to start putting in some highlights. So over here, I want where the stem is, I want to kind of put a little shadow there. And I'm actually going to bring that shadow all the way around. Now, I just want to say this too. You can omit some of these things that I'm doing if you find it's too much for you. Don't do them. Just paint the apples red, add some of the other colors to give you the tonal values that you're satisfied with, and call it a day. But I'm going to take you to another level by showing you how you can really add some really nice detail to this. So see, even from that little subtle color variation, you can see where the apple is starting to take form. I believe there would be a shadow underneath here from the leaf that's hanging. So I'm going to put a little something right there. Let it droop down a little bit. And then I'm going to put a little shadow that's bouncing right down over here. And again, I'm just using a little burnt sienna right now in red. I'm going to come as close as I can to the edge. Let that taper off, blend slightly. Yeah, it looks about good. It looks about good. I'll save the green for later. Come back here and add a little bit of a shadow here. Because in my painting, my light source is this way. So the table shadow, the shadows, they would be here. This is drying up a little bit. So I'm going to take a little bit of green, a little bit of red, a little bit of sienna. Give me that dark value again. And I'm just going to add a little bit more here, just to make sure I break this up quite nicely. There, that's good. See? Slowly but surely, it's starting to take form. Clean off my brush again. Now this is dry, so now I'm going to peel off this apple, put some color and some basic shadows on that. See, we're getting there. We're almost done. Just going to peel this off, and this will be the last peel. Well, no, we got some little ones. The last big peel. Cleaned off my brush, wiped it on my paper towel, grabbing some red, and starting to paint this apple. So now I'm just going to go right to the edge. And again, you can see where that darker value has made a nice separation of apples for me. And that's really all that's for. So it kind of stands out. Helps give it a little dimension too. Now, no, we're not going to be painting this like the masters. We're not going to actually be painting this to some realism. But I'm going to try to do my best while I have you to at least show you some ways in which you can paint while you're using a nice peel-off help to give you your shapes. Okay, so you see it's starting to come together. Starting to come together quite nicely. Almost looks like apples. Just take your time. We're gonna have some fun in a few moments. Just gonna come here. Now, to me, what I'm about to do isn't critical. You could literally paint all of this red and come back with the highlights. But I'm gonna try to leave a little circular pattern around this particular apple and come in with a little white and red for that indented part. So how I'm gonna do that is, first I'm gonna come all the way to here. I'm just gonna draw it out for you. I'm gonna come to here. Then I'm gonna shape this and say that somewhere about here is gonna be that highlighted part. So I'm just gonna etch it out like that. I'm gonna like try to leave that inside area alone, although I will kind of touch it just a little bit because I need the color to be a little fresh. But when I get to it, and then I'm gonna quickly mix up a little white and red for a pinkish value that's gonna help me put that center part of this apple in, because it's more pronounced. These aren't as pronounced. We're gonna put some white highlights on those, but this one I want it to be a little bit different. So before I get there, I'm gonna quickly paint, because acrylic paint dries very fast. So if you're like me and you have a puppy, you want to make sure she's well taken care of before you start, so you don't have to go give any attention. And definitely if you have children, I say give them something to paint and color while you're doing it, so you can move along without worrying about things drying up on you and coming back and creating a lot of hard lines. But listen, both of them are a priority over a painting. So I'm not telling you ignore them. I'm saying just give them something to do. Make sure that they're happy and satisfied before you begin a project like this. And I want to have it where the tip is just a little bit under that. So I'm going to go around like that. All right, so now what I'm going to do is just grab a little white along with this red, soften it up a little bit, and then I'm just going to go inside with that color. You'll see what I mean in a second. It's just going to be a slightly different value. So I'm going to take this kind of pinkish tone, and I'm just going to go inside here. Maybe I'll even add a little bit more white to it. Now that I got it started. And then just bring that on around the stem. That's a nice value, yeah. It's a hit or miss with art, you know, but that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that kind of value. And then I'll come over here with that. Okay. And then later I'll add a little white and some burnt sienna. But for right now, this is what I need. Just to give that little indentation right there. Now I'm going to go back with red and go back around my edges to just make sure I block that in nicely. Just like that. That'll do for now. All right. So now let's do some shadows on this, and then we're going to take some of that pink and white and begin some of the shadows on our apples, or some of the basic introduction to highlights. So what's our first shading color? A little burnt sienna, a little red, and then we're going to come up here and say that there's a little value up there. Now, for some of you, again, why burnt sienna? Because burnt sienna is in the red family. It's a brown, but if you really look at it, burnt sienna is in the red family. It's a reddish brown. And if you look up burnt sienna on, let's say, a watercolor chart, it will definitely be in the red family. Now over here, I want to definitely put some color around here. Have this drag over a little bit more. And then kind of come right down the front over here with a little something. And back here. Yeah. Now I'm going to clean this off. Soften that out a little bit. And then I just want to step back, let you take a look at where we are so far. So along with having a kit to do a nice project with, you're actually getting some art instruction. So now, that's looking pretty decent. But to show you even more, let's take a little bit of white and some of that pinky color that we made there. And let's just begin to add a few little highlight marks. So we'll say that there's going to be a highlight here. There'll be a little highlight here. Something here. And maybe right about here. And then we're going to clean off our brush. Dry it on a paper towel. And just kind of smudge out those edges a little bit. Just going to go to the edges and kind of blend that into the red. Just a little bit like that. Just soften that up. And we're going to hit that later with brighter highlights, but at least we have an idea of where those basic highlights are going to be. I know it looks weird. Just stay with me. Stay with me. Okay, so that's good enough. So now we're going to also take a little bit of white and a touch of that color. More white though. And we're going to come right up in here, for example, and we're going to indicate a little bit of a highlight. We're going to go just this way, paint it, and then give it a little edge right to about there. Almost like a pizza slice, if you will. So just like that. And then over on this one, we're going to go right over the stem and say that right up in here, because we can't see these as deeply as we can this one. So we're just going to indicate a little something for the viewers to see as if they can see part of it. Like that. Like that's good enough. Oh, that's pretty cool. I like that. And while we're here, let's just strengthen up some highlight here and some highlight here and maybe right there. Once acrylic dries, you could always go back and add values, but I just want to take the opportunity while we have it now to do that. Clean off my brush. Soften up the edges a little bit just by tapping. Smudge them around just a little bit, not the center parts, just the outline. And while we have that, why don't we go ahead and enforce a little bright highlight right there and right here. Now yes, this is before I put the darks. Just gonna go right along the edge here, come all the way down to about there. Okay, coming together. We'll get to that leaf in a minute. Now we're gonna go for a darker value. So now we're gonna take a little bit of green, a touch of red, turn it around, go back to a little bit of sienna. We want this nice and juicy, like a red dark, and we're gonna go back to our darks. This time we're gonna come right along the edge here. And we're going to really enforce these now. We're not completely done, but we are going to start bringing in some of the shadow area. And again, just a little bit of red. You just got to play with the values and you begin to see it. I put a lot more red than I did the green because the apple's red, so it'll help. But I just want to start to enforce or reinforce some of this darker value. Okay. I say it's starting to come together. I say we're starting to see something here. Now this is where you want to be careful because we're going to take a little bit of green, a little bit of red, a touch of sienna, and a touch of this black. Just a touch, because black is very, very strong. But we want a nice, stronger, dark, but not just black. See? And here you go. Watch what happens. See? It's a nice dark. We're going to leave a little bit of the red showing on the side. But it's a nice dark enough to help blend from the back of this black on this apple. See? And again, it's not black. It's actually a combination of colors. Black is just in there, but by just a small amount. Just to help dull the color down. And that's really a true use of black. Is to not omit black from your usage, but to learn how to use black like an artist. Because everybody uses it. So don't be fooled by people saying, never use black. They don't mean that. They mean never use just black. That's really what they should say. Well, maybe they just choose not to, but I am. I'm going to tell you the truth. So now you see how I'm just going over where those values were, and all of those colors are now mixing together, and they're showing themselves to be very, very profitable. Because even though we are far from done yet, look at what we have so far. We have a nice gradation going. Now I'm going to just blend those out a little bit. Dry my brush. Soften these edges. I always like to soften the edges just so you don't have that hard line look. Just softly blend. Stretch it out a little bit, scrub it in a little bit, move it around a little bit. Yeah, that's what it is. It's art. Okay. So, what are you thinking so far? Not too bad, right? Not too shabby, huh? Okay. So now, let's see where we are. We're going to definitely go into some red. Just red. This time we're just going to put in a smidget of green. Because we want a red that's slightly dark but red still. And this red is going to be the red that's transitioning from the shadow. See? So even though I use a little touch of green in all of this, but you see it's mostly red. So I'm getting a nicer red that's dark out of it. And I'm just going to go near those shadows and put a little bit of this darker red so that the other red becomes more of a highlighted red. Streak some of this in, soften this up, just scrub it around a little bit. Just helps give the apple just a slightly different look. Come back over here, do the same thing. Now again, you don't have to do all these little extra touchy-touchies. You can say, oh, you know, I'm just going to leave it like it was and I'm happy. And that's fine. But again, while I have you, I'm going to try to teach you how to paint. Okay, so I'm just putting this around randomly, but near those shadow areas. I want to build that shadow up a little bit more. That's over here. I really want this to be... I just went back into the color because it dried, and I'm just kind of layering now. Glazing, if you will. So that it gets a little darker in between there. Okay. Now we're almost ready to start with some of the detail and highlights. We're really almost done. I'm gonna take a little bit of this sienna, a little white, get a nice light version, and I'm just gonna add a little of that color down here, just a little bit. See, just a little bit, just a little bit. I'm gonna now pick up this little round pointed brush, which you do have little round pointed brushes yourself. I'm gonna go back into some of the sienna, maybe with a touch of the green in it, because I want a slightly dark sienna. And I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna start to add just a little value on the stem. Okay, just there. Then I'm gonna take a little touch of white and I'm gonna cap off the top with a little white right there, and maybe there's a little white right here. Don't worry, we're coming back to that. Just get ready to do the stems now. I just want to start with that one. So now we're gonna pop these off. Okay. So now we're just gonna start doing our stems. Go back to my pointed brush, get a little bit of that sienna by itself, and just paint the stems. Just gonna come down, give this some color. I like those streaks, so I'm gonna actually leave those. It's kind of working for me, so I'm gonna leave those little highlighted parts right there. I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna purposely leave the white tip. Then I'm gonna start painting this down, see if I can't get an effect out of this. Putting in the stems. We're gonna come with a dark value in a few seconds. There. Nice big stems. Okay, so our stems are sitting there waiting for us, looking good. We're gonna take some of that red, some of that green, a smidget, like just a dot drop of some of that black. Because again, we don't want it to be black. In this case, we want it to be more burnt sienna-ish black. So now I'm gonna come right down here and I'm gonna add a little value right at the tip here. And maybe there's some right up here, kind of rises up. A few little spots here or there. There. That gives a nice look of dimension. See that? See how you're not fussing with it a lot, but you're kind of dippling and dabbling. So now we're gonna come here, we're gonna come up from the root, where it's dark at the base, come across, and then we're just gonna streak a few little items here or there, just to give it a little value, and we're gonna call that one done. See? Little things like that. Now for this one, I wanna ride all the way along the backside more than anything else, because this one is furthest out of shadow, in the shadow. Then I'll grab a little bit of that sienna color and kind of dibble and dabble a little bit here or there, and that's good. So now my stems are done, almost to the point of completion. I do cap them off with painted white. See? Even though I left it white, I like to have the paint in there. And in the case that you have that little scratchy thing going, show you how you could easily clean it up because of the black. You just put some black there and it's gonna dry matted, just like everything else. So now we have those in. Let's continue with a few little decorative highlights on our apples. So maybe we can call them done. So I'm gonna take some pure white. I'm gonna come back here and just highlight, very lightly drag my brush there. Grab again, gonna very lightly go from here just to highlight there. Just gives an effect. Just gives an effect. Now, on the apple, I'm going to take some white, really kind of dry my brush off a little bit, and I'm just going to kind of drag a few little markings, like as if some highlights are kind of like subdued in there. So what I'm doing is I'm putting white on my brush, but I'm literally scrubbing it down so it's not strong. So when I go like this, it makes a very, 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 very light indication of just some highlighted parts, like sort of like that. See, gives a little curvature. Excuse my puppy. She's so excited. And there we go. We're just gonna put a few of those little things. Now, something else I like to do, see, I fussed it up a little bit. I gave it a little bit of juice. I like to also take and dull down the white, and then I just come in and stipple a little bit, where I just make some little dots. Now these you have to be discreet. There's no way I could tell you exactly where to place them or how many to place them, but you just want enough of these to kind of give the apple that spotted look, you know, where it just has a little bit of a look like it's translucent. Like there's some spots on it, just a few, just to help kind of give the whole feel of a real apple, you know, just very dull looking. These are not supposed to be strong. They're not supposed to be like a bright color white. They're supposed to be kind of subdued, like little freckles, if you will. You know, see? Yeah. All right. I think that's good. Put a little casted white over here. Another little casted white over here. And see, I like to stay in the contour shape. Helps form the roundness of everything, you know, by just kind of streaking in a few little highlights. Maybe there's a highlight right here, since this is more in direct light. So maybe there's a little bit of a kind of a dusty highlight right there. See, those little things to me, they make the painting. And see, now that everything's dry, I'm gonna take a dry brush, this one. I'm just gonna dapple over some of this just to make sure it's not bright. And who knows, maybe I could get a kind of a streak out of it, or just a little bit. But I'm only doing this to kind of dull this down just a little bit. Push it a little bit more into the apple. Colors are pretty dry, but they're not totally dry. Okay, so before I get to this right here, why don't we do this? We're going to take some white and we're going to put our tablecloth. And you have to be careful because back here we have an apple. So we have to kind of fake out a line that maybe runs just a little bit higher than this line, because here's where the apple stops in the back there. So I definitely want to leave a little black shadow when I come to this part. But now I'm doing the tablecloth that it all sits on. So I'm just gonna, you can lay a ruler down if you want to, but I'm just gonna fake a line to say that my line is gonna go from here, come to the edge, and it goes back over here. Then I'm gonna step back, see how straight that is, and then I'm gonna take the side of my brush and just start gently scrubbing. Now there's a black highlight casted from this apple, so I'm gonna use the black that we have to help that. I need a little darkness right underneath the apple itself. So I'm gonna come just below that, and then I'm gonna just start getting uneven. Back here, I'm just gonna scrub this all the way to here. This I'm gonna scrub, but up here I'm gonna leave some little black openings. See, I'm gonna leave some of that. Here I'm gonna kind of ride right down the edge sideways, and then I'm gonna pull back this way, so that it's not a hard line there, see? So it looks as though it's smooth back there, but it doesn't have a hard line to it. And so the same is true of this apple. I know that there's a shadow being casted from here to about this apple, so I'm just gonna kind of wiggle in a little something like that. Come underneath here again. See how I leave that little tiny little cast shadow here. Then I'm just gonna scrub this across, let this touch, and then join all this together. Very freely, just gonna do this. I'll come back again in a second. But I'm really just laying in the bases of my tablecloth. And so here again, I just want a shadow that might be kind of draping a little bit this way. Just a little bit. And then I'll come back here and I'm going to gray that down in a moment. Come here and then I'm just going to scrub this. But I'm going to try to use the black of the table to help me in this attempt. Let me straighten this out. But you can see how it's starting to come together. And we haven't even done the leaf yet. So now again, I'm just going to ride right along the edge very lightly. Right? And then as soon as I do that and finish, I'm going to pull everything back in this direction so there's no hard line. Touch right into that wet paint and pull it back this way so you don't have that hard line. And again, that could be smooth because it's kind of in the back. But up front, you want it to be a little ripply. So now let's go in here. Now in here, I just want to leave a little bit of black right there. Like maybe right there. Touch this. And now I'm going to have to ride both sides of the apple. So I'm going to go here. And I'm going to go here one time. And then I'm just going to pull back and forth to get rid of that hard line. Because all I'm trying to do is touch into the paint that's wet and pull it so that that hard line disappears. I'm going to come to where I think my other shadow is, and I'm going to stop about there. And I'm fine with this. Now in the front, I really do want this to be a little bit more edgy. So I'm just going to take some white like this. See, I had that. Now I'm just going over the top of some of it to kind of give an unevenness just so that I could have that look. And now I'm going to take a little bit of touch of black. Kind of make a grayish tone. And with that, I'm going to come across. Let me go a little bit darker with that gray. Sometimes you just got to mix and match. You know, you got to play with it. See what happens. That's a nice gray. See how that gray is totally different than the black. Just to soften up this shadow. Come like this. See? Just to soften it up a little bit. I want to soften up part of this shadow, but not so much closer to the apple. That I want to leave really dark, right there, like that. I want to leave that, and then maybe over here I come with some of this. See how I didn't go back and clean my brush? And then I also want to leave just a little bit of that. That looks good. That looks good. I like it. It works for me. Clean off my brush. Let's get down to this grassy stuff. Now here we're going to be using some yellow and green. So I'm going to peel this up just to reveal where that green leaf is. And I personally like to start with a little bit of a hodgepodge. So I'm going to take some yellow to start me out. So I'm going to say that the yellow is going to be kind of dominant. So I'm just going to splash some of that inside this space right in here. And I'm just going to pull this because I need that yellow to be my glow underneath the green. So by putting it first as a base color, I can add green on the top of this and really get a nice effect. So now I got the yellow, I'm going to touch it to a little bit of the green, and I'm just going to start hodgepodging it. I'm going to start mixing it up a little bit. A little bit of green, more green, come up here a little bit, go back to a little bit of yellow. I'm going to put this in over here a little bit. See, and I love that they touch each other. I love that they mix a little bit here. So I come up this way, but you still see that green. You still see the green. You still see the yellow, and that's really what I want. So now I want to add a little bit of yellow down here. It'll make sense in a second. It'll make sense in a second. Put a little yellow, green down here. Pull this in. See, it's still wet, so it moves, and that's what I want. I want it to be wet and moving. So now I'm just gonna fill this up. And I'm just gonna pull this green in particular all the way back and all the way forward. And that starts my stem. And now while I have this, I'm gonna pull this back a little bit, let it fade. Pull this. Because I'm gonna go on the top of this with some green, but I just wanted this little bit of a mixture. Now you could add a little red into this, you could add a little orange into this. You could add whatever colors you wanted to this to make this leaf very, very colorful and exciting. I'm just going to keep it simple and go like that. Now I'm just going to take straight green and start making the veins. So I'm going to go back and reinforce the line that's running in the center of these veins like this. And then I'm going to take my brush. Now you can use the skinny brush for this. I just like using this big brush. I get it flat. And then I just come here and I'm going to start pulling out from it some veins that are just running up this leaf. Let me just make this a little greener back here. Yeah, that's good. And now I'm just going to take my time and from this extend some veins, kind of curling it just a little bit, like so. You can make yours as many, as few, or none. You can just paint this leaf a solid green if that's your choice. I just want to add a little difference for the viewers. So I'm just staying at an angle here. Just going to grab a few more and a few more. Maybe one or two more. I think I could actually fit one more inside here just to give that a fill. So I'll definitely pull another one on that side. That looks pretty good to me. I like it. I'm gonna take my brush and I'm just gonna softly put in some darker values here or there. It's a leaf, so I can do what I want. Right around here. That looks good. Take a little bit of this green with a touch of some of this red, which is the complement. But I definitely want much more green than red, but I want a darker value. And now I'm going to come in and add some of that on a few of these just to help dimensionalize it just a smidgen. Is it noticeable? No. Does it have to be done? No. But I just like it. I just like adding those extra little touches of coloration, of shadow, just to give a little variation. Come right down the middle again. I think we have ourselves some apples. But I'm going to go now with my final highlights. I know I want to put a nice highlight on like maybe this area here. I'm just gonna add a little shady, shaky color right up in here. Give that. Maybe over here. Touch this up just a little bit. Go back into these. You know, and then after I get this, I'm definitely gonna soften this down, so don't worry. I'm gonna clean off my brush. I think we got us a nice little apple here. Now I'm gonna go to my edges, kind of soften these up. Maybe I'll grab some red just to help blend it back into the apple and make it a little pinky at the same time because of the white. So I'm just gonna soften this up. Then I'm just gonna run this over it just to smudge it out just a little bit. I don't want it to be super duper bright. I just wanted a highlight. So now I have it. Now I'm gonna mute it, puff it out a little bit, soften up the edges a little bit. That's good. Add a little bit of this around here, a little bit of that around here. There. There's my apples. Well, I hope you had fun. I know I did. It may have seemed like it took a long time, but it was only about an hour. You could go in and address this even further. You can add deeper highlights, deeper darks. You can play with your leaf more. But I just wanted to give you an idea of why I think personally, and I know that I'm the creator and owner of this, but paint and peel is so nice. I mean, we took 3 blank spaces and we turned them into apples. And we made them ourselves, even though we had a little bit of help from the outline, but you still created it on your own. No two people, no two apples are going to look exactly the same. Let's just do a side-by-side analysis, and you'll see what I mean. Here's my first painting that made the project possible, and then here's my second painting, which again isn't far from it, although they're different, and that's okay. That's okay. So on that note, I thank you very much for joining us. Please tune in to see some other videos that we have, and definitely continue to support Peiloff, because we love for you to push around a few colors and be creative. So until next time, take care. Bye-bye.